If you hate yourself, go for a walk and search for balconies or chandeliers. If you have no balconies and living spaces around where you live, search for elevated spaces or corners of nature. I will continue with balconies and chandeliers because that's what I have here. Chandeliers are physical objects with purpose to distribute light across the room. If we talk about home chandeliers, they are almost in all cases created with some sort of aestheticism. Even those that strive to be clear from it, for example, those that are purely minimalistic with no other than any basic feature, are still created with a dose of perfection. Perfectly round, perfectly polished, perfectly cut. That said, all of them convey beauty of some form. You may not like them, they may not be your style, they may not fit into your idea of beauty, but they still serve a purpose, and that is to spread light. By spreading the light, they emit certain warmth and color, and combined with human energies in the space, they create atmosphere. I would love to show you what exactly do I mean by that, but filming inside of human spaces from the outside felt wrong. So I'll focus on the balconies and chandeliers I will mention briefly. Balconies hold space. Each balcony holds an imprint of people who had a role in shaping the balcony, its architecture, design, decoration, and purpose. And even the abandoned balconies hold energies. But most importantly, all of them hold space for you. Even if you're not physically there. You don't have to be there physically. It's enough to just have a look and you can already pick up the atmosphere. You can probably tell what type of lives are or have been lived at the balconies you're looking at. And you can probably tell which balconies seem like you would love to be on them and which ones are not really attractive to you. You can probably imagine, what would you do? Who would you be? And how would you feel if you'd find yourself on each balcony? Could you live there? How would your life look like if you would live here? Who would you be? Do you visit? Who are the people living there? What is your relationship with them? Do they have ability to acknowledge and validate how you feel? Do you look up to them? Are you on the same level? Or do they look up to you? What is the most fun thing that happened on this balcony? Is this a balcony where you would go to an after party? Is this a balcony where you enjoy the sun? Is this a balcony where you smoke? Even if you don't smoke. While watching and checking all of these different balconies, check if your self-hate is there with you. It could be that it wasn't, because you glimpsed into a parallel version of your life where self-hate is not an ingredient. And that might have give you temporary relief. When you get back into your body, you get a choice to get back to hating yourself and feeling horrible, or you can use this temporary relief as a reset. You choose. Pause if you need to, but I encourage you to go out and explore your own connection to balconies. I mean, look at this balcony. Could you really hate yourself up there? Even if the hate is there with you on a balcony, the balcony gives you an opportunity to see the hate and see yourself and your actions driven by that hate from above, from another perspective. You can even have a chat with the person whose hate towards you have internalized at a time when you didn't have your full self to protect you from it. And you realize that the hate isn't even yours. You can see how ridiculous it is, actually. When you find a space that calls to you or looks appealing to you, imagine having a cup of cappuccino there, or whatever you drink. Imagine being lost in reading some 19th century poetry book that has nothing to do with the stress of modern life, while sitting on this balcony. While sitting on that balcony. Imagine having a relaxing dinner with friends. Maybe friends you haven't met yet. Imagine silently holding hands with somebody dear to you. I'm going to share a personal example. A few months ago, I had a live episode in which I was working on one of the videos through which I've met a part of me who's very perfectionistic, which means that I was very hard on myself. I've been criticizing myself and hating myself so hard that my stomach was hurting and I wasn't able to sit still and focus on editing the video. So I went out to get some fresh air. I didn't plan to go for a walk. I planned just to go out shortly, but it turned out to be a very long walk, and I ended up being in a completely other neighborhood. I've been noticing all the balconies and their atmospheres as I usually do, and that entertained me for a second, but it didn't initially switch me out of the self-hate mode. I got entertained for a moment, but the self-hate in form of pain in the stomach was there all along, just waiting for me to get back to it. Until eventually I found that one balcony positioned on the top of the building. It was a single balcony of the whole building and seemingly ideal. There was a treetop nearby. The balcony had a lot of plants and a lot of wind decorations. It was obvious that people who lived there put a lot of care and love and energy into that balcony. But somehow I wasn't able to picture myself up there. It was as if I never was there and I never will be there. Instead, I noticed the apartment on the first floor that had 2 rooms. Each room had a chandelier. One room had a very traditional chandelier. It was some sort of a 300 crystals hanging type of a chandelier. And the other room had a modern chandelier, which was some sort of a plastic interpretation of a rose in an IKEA style. Both of them had the same type of light bulbs. It was the light bulbs that distributed some sort of orange, peach, gold, caramel type of yellow light. It wasn't a normal yellow light. It was a bit warmer, but not too red either. Looking at that light opened my heart, and I imagined myself being in that room. In my mind's eye, I sat on a yellow sofa in the living room where the traditional chandelier was hanging. There was a blonde woman sitting across from me, and she was going through a catalog with furniture. She was also in the process of planning her vacation that was happening 1 month from that moment. Her partner was sitting in a corner and doing some work on a computer. There was a smell of banana bread in the air. The atmosphere of the room was comfortably relaxed. It felt safe to be safe. The woman emitted a frequency of being comfortable, being comfortable. Safety and well-being was a baseline of the room frequency. In this environment, my self-hate felt like a big black stone in my stomach. The woman gently lifted her look off of the catalog and said, "Oh, you don't have to hate yourself. It's okay. Let it down." She spoke about it as if it was a heavy bag that I picked up somewhere that wasn't even mine to carry. I did let go and I inhaled the energy that was present in that living room. I felt immediate relief in my body. I smiled. The space that was filled with dark criticism was now cleared up, and suddenly there was space for thinking fun and creative things and things to look forward to. I noticed that I wasn't used to feeling safe being safe. I noticed how much I can improve letting myself get used to that feeling. I said, "Thank you," and I continued my walk. And as I continued, I noticed that my body and my mind went back to the business of criticizing myself and entertaining the narrative of how difficult it was for me to focus that day. I stopped for a second and I saw the momentum I had. I returned back in the front of the building and I looked at the chandeliers. Instantly, they reminded me that I don't have to hate myself, and instead, I can choose to practice allowing myself to feel safe with myself. It was a bit outside of the mental realm, actually. It was just a feeling state that I can describe as just yellow air, in which it is safe and comfortable to be safe and comfortable. Where self-hate is not unwanted, not resisted, but just not necessary. I locked that feeling and made a decision to replace negative words and narratives with positive ones. It was a decision. I enjoyed the walk home. I brought myself an ice cream. I hugged the tree. I thanked everything and returned to the project I was working on. I was able to focus. I was able to enjoy the process and feel very good and proud of myself once when I finished. I personally believe that there is some beauty in self-hate, and those who say that they never hate themselves are missing out, but just a little bit. There are great musics and great artworks that came as a result of artists hating themselves. Hate can also show you quite accurately where is it that you miss a connection. However, self-hate is not the only room of your mind. It might seem at times like a room with no doors and no windows in which you're being trapped with the worst part of yourself. But there's always some button somewhere that opens the invisible doors. There are plenty of other rooms you can be in, or balconies.